What is up, everybody? Eric here from Tea and Tobacco. Today, I have a special guest with me, and I wanted to talk to these guys for quite a while. So I have James from TeaDB with me. What's up, man?
Hey, Eric. Happy to be here. Yeah.
So a few people have asked me to reach out to you guys and talk, and I think it's because we have a bit of overlap. So I think just for today's stream, we'll do a little bit of a get to know you because we haven't really talked at all, other than just going back and forth setting this up. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about what you and your friend do?
Well, Denny and I, we've known each other for a really long time, over 20 years now. But we started this channel, TeaDB, about 6 years ago now. And we basically just drink tea on camera, different tea each week, and just do weekly videos, about 10 to 15 minutes long. Review a tea. Not too dissimilar from some of the videos that I've seen from you as well. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I probably started watching you guys about the time I started my channel, maybe a little bit before. I started about almost 3 years ago now, and you guys were about 3 years in at that point. So how did you guys come about doing this thing?
Well, I mean, we'd always been good friends. We're actually business partners too, so we have our own little small business that's not at all related to tea. And I don't know, we've always just had kind of an eye for small little fun projects. And this was always intended to be kind of like a fun project to do, low effort something. And we were just kind of curious to see if people would be into it. And there was enough people that enjoyed sort of watching our channel that we decided to just kind of make it a regular thing.
Yeah, I think you guys started out doing a little bit of like a T101 type of videos and then just kind of went from there.
Yeah, we started when we didn't like, if you watch like early TeaDB, especially when we're drinking pu'erh, it's like, we don't really know what we're doing. So, you could see that, I don't know, you could sort of see the progression from learning, from going to kind of like beginner level to knowing a lot more. So we definitely did not start the channel as anything close to someone that with authority, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Because I know I butcher the crap out of names. I should probably just like send you the name of the tea that I'm gonna do, get you to build a little soundbite, and I'll just like interject it over me mouthing it because I always kill everything, even though I've been trying a little harder and using a opinion chart and like punching out all the syllables and listening to each syllable and trying to get my way there.
Yeah, you just dub it over with the Google Translate voice.
Right.
It's like you, and then it's like Munghai.
Yeah, exactly. Cause it was always with Munghai. Like I always pronounce the e, the Menghai instead of Munghai. It's just kind of looking at it. It's like that's not a U sound.
Yeah, you're certainly not alone. I mean, my Chinese is not good by any stretch of the imagination. But I did take 3 years in high school, so I know to avoid like the really basic things. So
right, yeah. So are you drinking anything special today?
I am drinking one of my normal teas. I have a couple teas going. One of these is a tea I picked up in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. It's a Hong Kong traditionally stored raw pu'erh. So it's brewed sort of like radish dark color, pretty deep into the tea now. And another one I have going is just a Munghai Dai basic ripe recipe from last year or the year before, I forget, 7572. So yeah.
So do you find yourself going between two teas throughout the day, or you just kind of let one go and then, you got two going? So I'm guessing you kind of go back and forth between a couple.
Yeah, kind of. I guess that my normal tea routine is I'll have something that I'll usually brew in a smallish pot, so 95, 100 milliliters. And this will tend to be sort of my more focused tea session. So it tends to be raw pu'erh, oolong, whatever. And I'll have that going pretty much all day. So they're usually teas that can take 12, 15 steeps. And then I'll also brew tea for my wife in the morning, usually in a big pot. and I'll probably have a couple of those brews throughout the day as well. So the tea in the pot right now is the ripe pu'erh.
So you make kind of a big batch of like a Western style brewing of.
Yeah, it's closer to a Western style for sure. It's not. It's a larger pot, although I think people in the West would still call this pot tiny.
Tiny. Yeah. Okay.
But it's huge as far as like the Western tea community goes. It's probably 250 milliliters or something like that, and just kind of do real casual brews. Ripe pu'erh, very forgiving. So
got it. So you're not making a huge pot of it at once and drinking that throughout the day. You are re-steeping it throughout the day.
Yeah, okay. For sure. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, like me, I usually wake up and I usually go for something like either a black tea or a ripe pu'erh, and I kind of drink that throughout the morning, and then in the evening, I end up going somewhere along the lines of like right now I'm just drinking some Show My Grandpa style. It tends to be my go-to in the evening, going towards more white teas and some lighter oolongs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you don't really drink raw pu'erh too much.
I do. I just sometimes that will be my morning tea as well. It's just I tend to go to the ripe or the black teas in the morning. And then maybe I will have like a raw in the afternoon. But I tend to like the ripe better than raw. I guess it really depends.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the raw, I guess, but it's easier to drink, for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Like it's inexpensive and low quality for the most part, but the Tibetan Flame brick, I have some from like 2007, and that I'll drink whenever because it's obviously it's decently aged, so it's actually really nice whenever.
Yeah. One of my main pet peeves with the community is, well, not the community per se, but just like the teas that we get exposed to in the West, is that raw pu'erh tends to be really, really dominantly really young stuff. So I feel like the tea community sort of skews that way a little bit when there's like this wider world of tea, like more aged teas such as the 2007 or this tea that I'm drinking right now that tend to get a little bit underexposed in the West.
Yeah, and obviously that's a bit of a sourcing issue as well too, you know, just being able to obtain some of them, and then obviously you're going more and more expensive, so I think kind of the price ends up turning some people off too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, although I mean, as exampled by sort of the Tibetan brick or Tibetan flame, it's a mushroom, I'm guessing. Those things don't necessarily need to be super expensive all the time either.
Yeah, I think they kind of waffled back and forth over the years. The 2007 that I have is a brick. I have seen it as a mushroom. So I think they kind of went back and forth a little bit there, but the 2007 is a brick. Gotcha. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all fannings. So it's, you know, pretty much shredded tea. So it's not like the super highest quality or anything.
Right.
But I mean, it costs, I don't know, right now you can probably get it for under $15. So
yeah, can't complain about that.
Can't complain about 250 grams for $15. That's 12 years old at this point.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're going for, you know, some raws that are, you know, higher grade leaf, not shredded, so you're going to be paying a bit more.
Right.
So I guess that's probably one of the reasons I don't drink a whole lot of raw, because I don't have a lot of old raw.
Right. So you tend to like stuff that's a little smoother rather than like the really young, really floral, maybe a little more aggressive sort.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like florals. So like I don't drink a whole lot of like the really light oolongs. Like Taekwon Yin, that's not like, I like the dark or medium roast for the Taekwon Yin that take the floral edge off.
Okay.
So those I kind of stay away from. So obviously then I like a lot of the Wu Yi oolongs, because those are definitely more up my alley, because they're usually a more oxidized.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say I'm probably pretty similar. I tend to like the darker teas in general, darker oolongs, darker pu'ers. So ripe tends to be pretty regular, and I generally prefer shung pu'er with some age as well.
Right. Yeah. So I have some random like raws that are in the cooler that I'm currently sitting on. So I'll let those age out. I maintain humidity in it and everything, so I maintain roughly around 70% relative humidity in that cooler, so I at least don't dry them to death.
Okay. Have you had any issues with mold or anything like that?
No, I actually kind of go a little lower during the summer, so as the temperature rises,
Uh-huh.
and if it's going to get up to 90 degrees in my office, then I start dropping the humidity down to like 50%, and then in the
Okay.
winter I'll bring it back up. So I don't I don't have the problem with the temperature causing mold. But since I do store cigars and stuff, basically it's exactly the same storage parameters, roughly 70% relative humidity at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's exactly the same way as I store my cigars, so I kind of keep them well protected.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Would you say that your sort of like, I don't know, I guess methodology towards storing pu'er has been more informed by cigars or by like kind of the, I don't know, reading stuff about tea storage or whatever?
Definitely buy cigars,
Okay.
because you still have the same. You're still going to have the same problems at the higher humidities. You're running chances of mold, and obviously higher humidities with higher temperature is definitely huger, a bigger problem when it comes to mold and whatnot. So that's my philosophy on trying to at least stay safe in a safe zone to stay away from mold, but still allow the humidity in there to allow aging to continue as quickly as possible with least amount of risk for mold, I guess you should say.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've come to a sort of similar storage setup to a lot of people out west storing pu'er as well.
Yeah, you store quite a lot in like a refrigerator and stuff, right?
Yeah, I store it in a refrigerator, and I also store some in a big wine storage sort of unit that I picked up locally. So that's and it's more or less the same. It's like because in the West, the ambient room temperature here, I'm in Seattle, it would be too dry for the tea. So I'm basically adding Boveda packs to
Yep.
get it to 65 to 68 or so humidity. Yeah.
Okay.
So pretty similar.
Yeah, you're storing it about the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did some research recently because people were talking about wet storage versus dry storage, and different regions of what they consider a dry area versus a wet area. And even the dry area, like the average relative humidity was still like 70%. So it's like, how do you consider that dry?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's not that dry. And then even the like wet area, the average was like 78%. So it's like the difference is only 8% considering what they consider dry and what they consider wet. It's like, that's really not a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
But you are pushing the mold envelope once you start heading towards the 80% range, and especially at the temperature. Well, that was another thing. Looking at the temperature of those areas, we're pushing into the mid 80s Fahrenheit. So
Right.
I mean, right there at roughly 80% relative humidity and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, that's pushing mold town pretty bad. So I like, I don't know if I want to be storing my tea in that type of temperature.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one thing that trips up people about pu'er is that like sort of the intuitive understandings of like I hear dry storage and like if I don't know anything about it, I'm gonna think that okay, that's like I should store it really dry, like
Right.
in a desert or kind of like spices where you're trying to keep it away from all humidity or whatever.
Throw some silica packs in there.
Right, but really, it's like the normal like the standard that pu'erh was stored at for so long is like Hong Kong, which is just very humid, and it was stored in like the ground level of Hong Kong, which is even more humid. Right. So it's super hot too. So it's like dry is relative to that rather than being like dry and like what my definition of dry might be.
Right. And that always got me. I'm like, how did they manage to stave off the mold problem with those type of temperatures and humidities? Because that's like, I don't know how mold is even avoidable at that temperature or humidity.
Well, I don't think it is. I mean, I guess I don't know if you've read much about like the sort of traditional Hong Kong storage, but I mean, like ripe pu'erh, which is basically a process where you're going to get the leaves to be really fermented, and I'm sure you're going to get mold on some of them. I mean, the traditional storage process or the fermentation of ripe pu'erh is based off of sort of that traditional storage. So, I mean, the idea was that you'd have it in these super intense conditions, and then you dry it out moderately, and then you'd sell it. And, I mean, obviously the tea will at least ferment and age really fast in those conditions. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess the dry storage, while it's, like, dominant now, it's, like, that's, like, the new thing. I mean,
right.
Like, so the sort of older school, we're going to ferment this, we're going to literally get it moldy, and then we're going to air it out moderately, and then it will be drinkable for people. It's like that's like the old school.
And hopefully we didn't introduce any bad mold into it.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
But I think with the ripe process, I mean, they're getting temperatures up into the 125, 130 area in the pile, and that's gonna prevent any of the bad mold from growing. They've gone past it and gone to microbial activity.
Huh.
So, I mean, it's actually the same way how they do tobacco as well. Like down in Central America, they do the same thing. They pile it up in piles, and basically huge piles, like 4 feet tall or whatever, and they rotate the pile every few days and let the tobacco in the middle kind of go through exactly the same process, the ripening process, but it's the curing process for tobacco. So it's very, very similar, and that's why I think that's kind of why I did the channel as both incredible leafs.
Yeah, well, the overlap's really interesting.
That was one thing. I was surprised about how many people, at least the people are like on my Discord, are like into both. Like there's not many that are just into tea or just into like pipes and cigars. So that's been interesting that a lot of people do like both. I think there's only one person I know of that specifically is tea in my Discord, but that's because he's 16 years old. So don't smoke if you're under 18.
Yeah. I mean, the overlap with other sort of like spirits and stuff like that and wine. I mean, I've met plenty of people that have tea and then their other most likely alcoholic hobby on the other side.
Yeah. I think it's very similar because, I mean, you're really kind of exploring the world of flavors out of a very small subset of material. So, I mean, we're talking about all these different flavors out of the same species of plant. Tobacco and tea, it's all, one species, and then there's cultivars that are completely different or grown in different places. So, tea, you have it grown all over in all types of different places: China, Japan, India, Taiwan, and all that fun stuff. And then tobacco, same way. You got it in Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Cuba, even in Indonesia and Africa. So it's kind of the same thing. Different places grow different stuff, and it all gets processed slightly differently. And even though it's all the same leaf, the same species of plant, it just all ends up very different. And then with the spirits, it's the same way. It's all made by basically the same stuff in different ratios and aged differently and all that fun stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see. Does anybody have anything for us in the chat? I don't know how many people. I see some people in the chat, but I haven't gotten any questions in the chat.
All right. Well, hopefully the audience that is not into tea is not put off by having someone that is strictly tea on the show.
Yeah. Well, like I said, a lot of people. You're probably the most requested person to talk to.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, so it can't be that too off-putting. Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of suggestions for other presenters for like pipes and cigars and whatnot compared to you guys. Let's see. Yeah, Zach says beautiful to see you two together. Thanks. Let's see. What else should we talk about here? So you're out in Seattle. And your business partners with Denny.
You were right, yeah.
So I guess why couldn't we get him on the show?
Well, it's just easier to schedule one of us. He lives. I mean, we both live in Seattle, but TeaDB is a low effort thing. So
right.
yeah. I mean, maybe in the future, I'm sure Denny would be perfectly willing to come on, but we'll see if we can do it. Squeeze another person into my tiny little webcam here.
Sure. I always thought I love watching you two because your transitions to each other are hilarious because most of the time you aren't expecting them to throw it to you. So I always think those are really funny. You're like, so Denny, tell us about blah 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 blah. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a very fun. You guys shoot quite a lot of episodes all together, though, right?
Yeah, we usually shoot 2 or 3 back to back, and there's been some times where we shoot 4 in a row, and like you could probably tell by the 4th one that we're just like,
I don't want to drink this anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we're just like fucking caffeinated. I mean, sorry, I don't know if you can swear on the show, but yeah, we're just
go
like,
for it.
we are just very energized, and like I think those episodes tend to be the most nonsensical, but yeah, they're still fun to do. Yeah.
All right, we have a question from Zach. Have you ever given someone strong? I don't know what XI stands for. Or G? Pu'erh without telling them the supposed effects. I'm not sure what that means.
Maybe strong chi.
Yeah, that
QI.
Yeah. Well, it's XI, but.
Yeah, no, I see that. Huh. Yeah, I don't.
Anyways, I guess I can throw that question to you if you assume it's chi.
Usually I try not to surprise people too much. I mean, sometimes I'll serve something nice and not tell them and just see what happens. But I don't know. I mean, chi is so subjective and how it affects your body that it's kind of hard to judge. I have one friend in particular that like has like arm hair, and so he like measures it by how much like the arm hair on his arm like starts to stick up. So sometimes when I drink tea with him, I'm like, okay, are you getting the effect now? And he checks his arm and sees what happens. But I don't know. Do you drink tea with other people very often?
Just my wife, but that's about it. But yeah, so far she's not a huge fan of any of the pu'erhs that I've tried. She likes the shomai and the white teas, like kind of the aged white teas. I have an Iwu. I got it from Dragon Tea House. It came in like a little bamboo laced log. And it's a Iwu, white aged white tea. But that's really all the information he had about it. But it's really good. But the leaf size is huge. Like the leaves are literally like this big.
Is it a Huang Pian?
What was that?
Like, is it a Huang Pian, like sort of the big yellow leaves?
It could be, yes.
Okay.
I'm assuming it is, but yes, the leaves are massive. But it's like it's a really clean picking. All the leaves are in like perfect conditions once they completely unfurl. They're kind of stacked in this thing. So you just kind of peel off a few. It's actually really nice, and I'll probably grab some more before he's doesn't have any more of it.
Yeah. My wife, I find that she cannot stand the bitterness of tea, so it's almost never raw pu'erh with her.
Yep.
But she's actually really started to. She really likes ripe pu'erh, and it's even when I serve her like a oolong or a black tea, she'll be like, "It's okay, but I want ripe pu'erh." So it's kind of a weird genre of tea to end up liking, but I guess I don't know. Can't argue with it.
Yeah, I really hated ripe pu'erh when I first started trying it, but I think it was because I was steeping it way too long, and I think that was my main problem. Like now, it's like the first steeping is usually just like a flash, and
Okay.
stuff like that. I'm not going out, like 20 seconds or anything, because then it's like chewing on dirt.
Yeah.
So
some people like it like that.
yeah, I know.
will say.
So I think I kind of figured out. Oh, wait a minute. If I do a flash steeping, and then I can kind of, at this point, I have had enough of it. I can kind of figure out from each steeping to figure out how far out to go on the next one. But usually, like I've been drinking what left I have of the Munghai V93 that I have. And yeah, like the first like 2 or 3 steepings, I'll just do flash, and then I'll go like 5, 10, and 20 after that. So I think it was just kind of figuring out that, oh, wait a minute, I don't need to steep this for a long amount of time to enjoy it, and then if I actually don't steep it a long time, I enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah. Same thing with raw pu'erh too. I mean, that would be straight up nasty. I mean, even if it's like could be bitter off of a flash steep, and if you steep that for like 20 seconds, I mean, depending on the tea, it could be just a kick in the face.
And that's probably one of the reasons that I don't drink a whole lot of raw, at least anything young. I'm guessing I haven't had a ton of aged. I do have some aged that I got from Scott, so I'll be trying that out. So that should give me a better idea if I should continue at least getting raws once in a while, just to hold on to forever.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some raws that I will drink young. Like I tried a few different things. I have some raws from White 2T that they're fine to drink at this point. I mean, they're only like 2014s and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming those are going to age nicer than if I like it and it's young, it's probably going to be better when it's old. That type of deal.
Yeah, could be.
And even I tried it right when I got it. So I got it in 2015, and I've tried it recently. And there's been a huge change from... I was just looking back over my tasting notes from just the 4 years, and it's changed quite a lot. So, yeah, I'm kind of in my journey of kind of documenting how long things take to change and how they end up changing and going from there.
Okay. Has it gotten much darker in its brew or the leaves?
No. Well, maybe visually it has.
Hard to say.
Yeah, hard to say because it was really green in color. It was a mix of light greenish and dark green leaves for the most part. So maybe it's darkened up a little bit, so it's more of a dark green now.
Right.
But some of the things that I noticed that kind of have rounded off is some of the floral notes are gone that were there, which I'm guessing that kind of happens in general anyways. I've noticed that from like oolongs, like the bright floral notes tend to die out first. So I've noticed that. The bitterness has dropped some, so that's good. And there was some grassy notes in there too, and those have morphed from more of a green grass to more of a dry grass or hay type of flavor. So we'll see how it goes when I try it again in 5 years. It's sitting at the bottom of my cooler, so I'm not going to dig it out anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I tend to every year I'll pick out like a bunch of teas that I haven't tried in a while, and I'll revisit them and see. It's always kind of a, I don't know, memory's a fickle thing, so you gotta jog it, and you don't always remember super accurately. But it's interesting to retry some of those teas. My tea definitely has not aged quickly, so it might be kind of similar to your experience. The bitterness is down just a little bit. It's not super floral or anything like that anymore, but it's not like it's brewing up orange or anything like that yet, and it's still quite strong overall, I would say. Yeah.
Do you keep a journal?
I keep a internal log of kind of the teas, and I had some spreadsheets, and they got a little bit out of hand when I was like sampling everything. So,
well, technically, you have a massive video journal now because you got like 300 episodes worth of tastings.
That's true, and I mean, it's
plus all the in between episodes that you've done, like 180 of those or whatever.
Yeah, we have a massive library of content. Denny and I say you could watch ours for literally days if you wanted. But there have been some times where it's not a great thing, where I've literally brought a tea onto the show and like not realized that we brought it onto the show like a year and a half ago. And then I'm editing it, I'm putting it up, and I'm like, and I noticed that episode 205 and episode 287 are the same or something like that. So not always great, but yeah.
Well, then you can see if your tastes have changed, or if the tea has changed, if it's exactly the same tea from the same batch or whatever.
That is true. That's true. I guess that's the more honest blind tasting to some extent.
Yeah. See if your taste changes and whatnot. Yeah, like, are you guys mostly tasting it for the first time for some of these teas on video?
I would say for the most part we try them ahead of time, but maybe for 25-30% of the teas they are the first time we're tasting it. Because sometimes we get a lot of free samples from vendors, and sometimes they'll just be a single sample. So if we're going to bring that onto the show, we got to do it.
Hi vendors, you can send free samples to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've just barely gotten to the point where some vendors have started sending me stuff. No tea vendors yet, but cigar and vendors have sent me some stuff. So hopefully the tea will start to catch up, because I think I actually have more subscribers than you guys.
I think you do. Yeah, no, I'm sure you will at some point. In fact, I'm kind of surprised you haven't had more people. Maybe I don't know. Yeah,
I had a large downtime. I like started 3 years ago, and then like work got way out of hand. So then I had like almost a 2-year hiatus. So, and then I came back in December. So I've been making videos consistently since back in September. So my catalog's a little light for how long I've been my original videos. So hopefully things will pick up from there. But yeah, like for myself, I do try, at least with the teas, I do, taste them, make notes, and all that fun stuff. Especially because, one, I don't have another person to talk to while I'm on the video. So I tend to make shorter videos than you guys, because I have no one to bounce ideas off and babble. And I try to go a lot more straightforward, just giving my tasting notes for the most part. So I'll go, like, lately I've been doing like 3 or 4 steepings, and then giving the rest of my notes verbally without actually going through the tasting. Just because, that can take forever.
Yeah.
Especially if you're by yourself.
Yeah. Have you done any episodes with anyone else?
No, I have not.
This is the first one?
Yes, this is the first one, actually.
Okay.
That I have done with anybody else. I have... When I did my live stream earlier this weekend, there was people asking questions and all that fun stuff. So that was fine. And I could also take calls if I really wanted to, but I did not. But I'm going to move my office around here. This is where I shoot in my office, and I've cleaned out. I have nice space behind the camera now. I got rid of a huge desk, and I have a nice small standing desk now. So I'm gonna move stuff around, and maybe my wife will join me once in a while.
Right on. Yeah. Having done both, where it's with someone and by myself, I find with someone else to be just much, much easier. I find like when I'm on my own, I'm like going,
What do I say? What do I say?
yeah, it's like there's like a 30-second pause where I'm like not doing anything. So like I can very much understand. I don't know. I don't think my solo episodes are particularly great, but I think it's just easier with another person. So I just someone to throw different ideas off of. You can have some time to just think without having to babble on and stuff. So
yeah, and that's probably why the format that what I usually do is the way it is, because I'm pretty much by myself all the time. So I just give my tasting notes. If you look at the format of my cigar and pipe videos as well, so reviews of those things, it roughly follows the same format as I do for tea. So I kind of keep that same format throughout. But yeah, that's why I make a ton of tasting notes and do 3 or 4 steepings on camera, and then kind of give the rest of my notes that I wrote down. Because it can take a while. By the time you're already out to just 4 by yourself, and if you're doing it, at a decent pace, you're still at like 25 minutes worth of sitting there shooting by the time.
right, yeah.
Because I actually want to drink the tea. I don't want to just like taste dump, taste dump, taste dump. That type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's even the same thing for Denny and I. Even though we're splitting teas, it's just like there's only so many steeps you want to do in 15 minutes,
Right.
And it's like we've been criticized for going, I think, too fast sometimes. But it's like if you want to cover a lot of steeps of the tea. And in some of the case of some of these really special raw pu'erhs, for instance,
Right.
you could go for 20 times. I mean, so you want to do the tea justice, but you also don't want to drink too fast. So it's kind of hard to balance those two things. So I've ended up kind of doing what you end up doing. It tends to be my favorite format for just for most teas, is to just do a couple steeps, maybe 3, 4 at most. And I've realized that, like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be the first one. It could be like the 3rd to the 6th or something like that.
Yep.
And I find that works pretty well for me, at least.
Yeah, and so far I have one tea. I have I don't even know I know it's a 1997 raw that I got recently from Scott, and I only have 10 grams of that. So that's going to be it's going to be I'm going to be tasting it for the first time while I'm reviewing it type of deal. And that's the only tea I currently have that I have less than 25 grams of. So most teas I can at least do 2 or 3 sessions before I even film the review. But I think I've developed a decent palate over the years, at least with like cigars and smoking a pipe. I can kind of narrow down stuff pretty quickly. So usually it doesn't take me a whole lot of time to think about what I'm tasting. But like my cigar reviews, I do them as much as possible. I do those blind. So I have a whole set that's set aside that I at least have duplicates of. So my wife rummages through the drawer, grabs one, takes the band off of one, sticks it in a tube, and then leaves the band on one and sticks that in a tube. And she gives me the one without the band on it, so I can give a true blind review and not be influenced by the name or anything like that. So those I pretty much all do blind. So those are I'm not using notes.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because then I need. It's not like I can take photographs of it beforehand and not know what it is. So. So, what does James do outside of tea? Does he have any other hobbies?
I do have other hobbies. I've always been sort of like into my different hobbies at different phases of life. I guess right now I don't know. I'm pretty into cooking. A lot of like Southeast Asian food. I've always been into Asian films as well. So. Another of my sort of sub-interests. Um, yeah, and
Any
Denny and I
specific-
actually
Go, keep going.
go. And Denny and I actually got our start when we were in high school. We used to do these audio commentaries for Warcraft 3, a video game, a Blizzard game.
Yep.
And I was at one point ranked fairly highly in that game, and so we would just kind of fuck around on then. Back then, you had to record the audio because the internet was not did not have bandwidth for videos at that point. It was pre-YouTube. And so we would have to be like, okay, you're going to start your replay in 10, 9, 8. And then everyone would start their audio and the replay at X time, and you would go from there.
And then you'd have to layer it on top later. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, everyone that would listen to it would have to manually layer it on top. Yeah.
Oh, that's even more interesting. So you didn't edit the video and put it in, and then got it. Okay.
Yeah, this is like 2002, 2003. So
Yeah.
this is early internet. Yeah.
Are you still kind of a video gamer?
No, not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of similar. I was playing a lot of video games in my high school years. 97 to 2001, and like Quake 3 was huge, and Half-Life and all that fun stuff. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten less and less video game time. Now I play like retro games.
Okay.
Like what was I playing recently? Ori and the Blind Forest. I like a lot of like the platformer side scroller type of games. So
Okay. I'm always worried with video games. I've always been like an all or nothing sort of person. So these days it's mainly nothing. So I don't even follow. I played StarCraft 2 briefly for about a year, and then after that it's like I shouldn't do this. It's not. I have a hard time keeping a healthy balance, I should say, with video games.
got it. Yeah, that's probably why I don't really play any like AAA titles. It's just all like indie games or smaller games. No like multiplayer or online games or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was all about owning other nerds on the internet when I played, so those days are past.
Yeah, I just play a lot of single player. Like,
Okay.
there's so many indie games out right now that are like based like our old like Nintendo style.
Huh.
Like
Okay.
and they're even like pixelated and everything. It looks like you're playing a Nintendo game. So there's a lot of side scroller platformers. There's a lot of stuff in like the vein of Metroid, Castlevania type of games where it's like open world side scrollers.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to try that out at some point. That sounds like something I could.
Yeah,
maybe.
and they're all like on Steam. You can get them for like $20 or less. Some are as cheap as like $1. So there's a lot of fun stuff out there. And I actually picked up. There's actually a company now that makes retro style game controllers. So the controller I have for my computer is based off the Super Nintendo controller, and the buttons feel exactly the same.
Wow.
It's
okay.
awesome. So even like the top row is kind of concave, and then the bottom, the A, B are convex. It feels exactly the same playing with like a Super Nintendo controller, which was always my favorite controller.
Okay. Yeah, I've not handled one of those in a long time. Yeah.
You play any tabletop games?
Not too much.
No.
Yeah.
So you're not like a super nerd then?
No. Apparently not.
All right. I'm guessing you probably have to go soon.
Yeah, I have, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Whatever. Whatever. I can stick around or we could call it. Up to you.
Let's see. We have some questions in here. Do you ever have meditative sessions? If so, what is your process and what's your favorite aspect of tea?
I don't know. I don't know if I would call any of my sessions particularly meditative. I guess I've been privileged enough to be gifted some really nice teas. I guess those would be the closest. But I tend to just like turn off all devices and just really concentrate on the tea for an hour or 2 hours. Maybe have just like this where I can scribble some notes down, and yeah, that's probably the closest I would say I get.
Yeah, personally, I am almost never doing anything other than tea. I'm always doing something else while I'm drinking tea, so I'm not very good at getting the meditative out. I'm usually, watching TV, playing video games, watching a movie or something, so it's very rare that I'm concentrating specifically on the tea. Though I do that with cigars. I will. Oh, even then, I'm still like on my phone or something if I'm out on the patio. So I guess I don't really get the go into the meditative state. Another question was, what is your favorite aspect of tea?
Whew, that's a interesting one.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I have necessarily. It's kind of a cop out, but I don't know that I have like one aspect that's my favorite. I really do like drinking tea with people, and I think that's something that a lot of people in the West tend to miss out on, just because this style, the Kung Fu style of tea, tends to be a really solo activity. So maybe it lends itself more towards the meditative. But like if you go to Asia or you go to tea shops or things like that, having tea with other people and like those conversations, or even if you just get some tea friends locally. I have some people I meet up with regularly every couple weeks or so. So that can be really great. And I mean, that's kind of just hanging out with tea. So that's probably some of my favorite tea experiences.
Yeah, I wish I could do that, but I live out in the sticks.
Okay.
The town that I live in only has 7,000 people, so this is not a huge center. And I don't think I could get good tea within 2 hours where I live.
Wow.
I'd probably have to go to Boston to find anything remotely okay.
Okay. Where are you exactly?
So I am just outside of a town called Keene in New Hampshire. It's right in the southwest corner. Basically, it's where the intersection of Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire all are. But yeah, there is nothing as far as tea shops anywhere close to here. So I'm definitely way out from anything good.
Actually, I had a tea session just a week and a half or so ago with one of my friends that I meet up with regularly, who oddly has a very strong obsession with moving to Vermont, and he calls it the kingdom. I don't know if that's like the term that people actually use.
Well, there's a county called Kingdom County in Vermont.
Oh,
it's the northernmost county, I believe. It's where Burlington is. Okay.
Well, he has this fantasy of retiring out there with just like a bunch of pu'erh in a cabin. I don't know if that's a good fantasy or not, but anyways, and the other person we met up with is from kind of Vermont, Maine area. So interestingly enough, I got to hear an hour-long conversation I never thought I'd hear about living out in Vermont and Maine.
I would not mind moving even farther into the sticks, into the mountains. So I'm just in the southern part. I would totally move up to the northern part of New Hampshire and retire in a cabin. I know I'm trying to figure out, like, doing the calculations. It's like, okay, I smoke this much tobacco. I smoke these many cigars. I drink this much tea. How much do I need to get me through until like I'm 85 or something?
Yeah, well, that's the calculation I'm sure that a lot of people have done, probably more than they would admit.
Yeah, and man, just given the state of how expensive aged pu'erh is, it's like you almost have to carry. Mm-hmm. If you have the capacity to store your own, you might as well. Because every year tax on like another 10% to the price. Or it probably goes exponential at some point. Another year adds on like 30% or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think that's so. Going to that question, I think because I don't have a whole lot of people that I can sit around and drink tea with. It's pretty much just my wife that I drink tea with. I'm a sampler, I guess you could say. That I just want to try everything I can find. So that's always a problem with me, trying to figure out, okay, well, what should I buy larger quantities of?
Right.
Because I'm always like, oh, but what if I find something better?
Yeah.
Always, but the problem is there's always something better. So
Yeah.
so it's like, just find something that you really like, at least have that. And that's my same problem with cigars and pipe tobacco. As you can see behind me, I have 170 different blends of pipe tobacco behind me.
Okay.
But it's the same problem. It's like, well, I haven't tried everything, so I don't know what's the best. So,
Yeah.
but I think that's one of my favorite aspects, is there's so much out there and there's so much to try.
Right.
That
I mean, you could sample from Yunnan sourcing endlessly. I think he probably
Right.
stocks it faster than you could buy it from him.
Exactly. I mean, I'm in their I get one of their tea boxes.
Okay.
I get their premium tea box, and just like how much tea I'm getting, it's like, I don't even drink this much in a month. There's no way I'm
Yeah.
gonna drink all of this by the time he sends me a whole new thing. But especially in spring, though, it's a lot of fresh teas, and I don't drink a whole lot of like greens. I don't really drink a whole lot of green teas. So that's what I did last month. There were a lot of greens in the box, and my brother-in-law was looking for some quality greens, so I just did like 2 sessions, one to make notes and one to review, and then sent those over to him. So spread the wealth around the family, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's tends to be what happens to any of the greens or even the whites that show up here. Is either Denny gets them or someone else gets them.
Yeah, it depends on the whites, because a lot of the
Yeah.
whites you can come back to in 10 years, and they've changed quite a lot. I have some silver needles that I bought from Scott in 2006 that have been sitting in my
You bought them in 2006?
yes
Wow. Okay.
from Unan sourcing.
eBay. eBay Yunnan sourcing.
Okay, it might have been right at maybe it was 2007. I'll have to check.
Okay.
I have the invoice somewhere, but it was right after he was no longer on eBay at that point. So I'm not
Okay.
sure what year that was.
I'm not even sure. By the time I was into tea, he was off of eBay. So
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was somewhere around 2006, 2007. I know where I
Okay.
was working because I had the box delivered to my work, and I know what building I was in, and that was 2007 to 2008 or 9. So it had to have been in there, but it's been sitting in my cupboard since then. And amazingly, it tastes great now.
yeah.
It kind of has that raw pu'erh type of flavor to it after sitting for so long. So
I'm guessing it must brew darker than it did,
it
right?
does, yes. So it does brew darker. It has darkened in color, and yeah, it was just very interesting that I bought a ton of it and then I didn't drink a whole lot of it, and now I have like a pound of it sitting in my cupboard.
Yeah. One of my local tea friends here, she has a blog, Oolong Owl. She's really into the whites, so I'll often get to taste some stuff thanks to her. And it's interesting to see how they age. I wonder a little bit about the conditions of them, like if they're supposed to be stored, because I think she's storing them fairly similarly to pu'erh. I wonder if that's even necessary. If you could, because it almost seems like people just put them on a shelf somewhere and they seem to have done okay.
Yeah, the cakes that I get. So I'm a big fan of like Shomai cakes. So I've bought those, and that's actually what I'm drinking now. I'm a big fan of them, and I store them with my pu'erh. So this is a 2000. Oh man, probably have the date on it here somewhere. This might be like a 2012. Oh no, it's 2015. So this is a 2015 cake that I'm working off. So I'm a big fan of it. I don't know how I describe how it's different from fresh shomai. I think fresh shomai is a lot more grassy or hay. And this is really kind of darkened up, headed more towards I don't know.
I like those whites when they sort of get into that like honey, herbal, sweet, like a little darker.
Yeah, actually, some of the stuff that I just got from Scott was really good too. It actually had more of like a honeydew flavor.
Huh.
So,
White teas as well?
it was a white tea, yeah. It was a wild picked white tea. They only produced like 20 kilos of it, but it's really good. So you can check out my review on that one. But it's like honeydew. Yeah, it pretty much tastes exactly like honeydew. So,
did you try the white to tea line of whites from this past year, 2018?
I have not tried. I've only tried their pu'erh.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I've tried like I got their sampler set, the raw and the ripe. The ripe had a few things that were just labeled with the leaf size. So it was like medium small leaf and then like large leaf. And then one of them was Old Reliable.
Okay.
I don't know the year of it. I think it was 2014, I believe. But Old Reliable is actually really good.
Yeah, no, that's solid. I've gone through a cake of that. I finished one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that. I'd like to get a lot more from other vendors, but considering how much I get from Unan Sourcing, I can only keep up for so long, you know.
Yeah, try out the white to tea Old Arbor White if you get around to it. That tea is pretty. It's I can't say I've had any other white tea quite like it. It's very strong in a way that sort of reminds me of pu'erh, but it's also definitely a white tea. It's also really oxidized. It brews really quite dark for a
yeah. I mean,
2018.
This is a white tea, and it's brewing pretty dark. And like just looking at the cake, I mean, it's already a pretty dark cake too.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to get some stuff from some other vendors. But yeah, like I said, I get a lot of stuff from Scott. Are there any other vendors that you purchase from quite a lot?
Well, I've had the problems of being like super saturated with samples at varying types of my tea. I don't know, career. I'm not even sure if that's the right word, but I tend to, I guess, get stuff from probably more than anyone. Yunnan Sourcing, white to tea occasionally, and Wui Origin tends to be like who I like for my sort of darker oolongs, like Wui oolongs. They also have pretty good dantongs and some good black teas, usually Fujian, Lapsang, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough that we end up with just random samples that could be pretty good, so I don't need to go out and buy a ton of, I don't know, I don't need to buy in quantity, I guess I would say, especially of fresh oolongs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't drink a whole ton of fresh stuff anyways, or anything that won't age okay.
Yeah.
Just because I have no idea how long it's going to sit on my shelf. Like I'm drinking some black tea that I got from Unan Sourcing from 2016, and it's still great. So
yeah, black teas, they're pretty good. I have a couple also from like 2016, 2017, and I just don't drink them that much. But like I have them every now and then, every few months or so, and they're solid. Yeah.
How do you store your fresh teas?
Usually in the thing they come in.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's so pretty standard.
Yeah, like if I know it's gonna sit for a while, I'll put them into a mason jar or whatever, and then throw those in the closet or whatever, just to keep like a tight seal on them. Because I have some. It's a green, but I forget what it is, from like 2015 that I just opened, and it smells like it's like fresh, just because it's been completely sealed away and hasn't really had any extra oxygen added other than what was already in the jar when I closed it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Let's see. Is there any more on the chat here?
Someone likes Denny's in between episodes more than mine. That's Denny's in between episodes. There might be some more coming.
Give me one of the pipe. Did you? I'm not sure what he's trying to say right there. All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up now.
Cool.
So, it's been a fun chat, and I'm sure we'll talk some more over the years.
Yeah, sounds good.
Hopefully, maybe stay in touch and get Denny on at some point.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I was gonna say, hopefully we can get Denny and maybe figure out some time to do that in the future.
Yeah, and figure out how we can do a stream on your channel at some point.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out I'll have to mess around with the technology and stuff and see.
Are you a Mac or a PC guy?
We have PCs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out Streamlabs OBS.
Streamlabs OBS.
That's what I'm using right now. So I have my DSLR, and obviously I have you on Skype. I don't know if you've looked at the stream, but we're like side screened right now. So you can do all types of fun things.
Sweet.
And I can control it all from the phone, so I can switch between us on the phone. So
that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
All right, so everybody go check out James' channel. It's TeaDB. It's not hard to find. You search tea review of anything, and you'll probably find them.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining me, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
All right. See you, everybody, and I'll see you next time on Tea and Tobacco. See you guys.